Okay, so if you call yourself a Christian or a conservative or even a moderate, and you think that choice trumps life, then there's a problem. You're not thinking things through, or you're being a coward. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Quan Teasy with the Christocrats and the Red Pill Reality, here with my homegirl, my wife, my friend Grace Uzo Adams. Yeah, my baby mama. We're here just kind of give you a little recap. The Christocrat channel, Red Pill Reality. We're here to not just give you the truth on political views and political ideologies, but lead you to the actual truth that everything else comes from. So a lot of people have been walking away, and we're so happy about that. But we want to make sure you're walking to the truth and not just just falling for anything, not just walking away from something and not going to the truth. We want you on our side, and we want you to stand on some solid ground. And we talk about current events and things going on, pop culture, politics. I was gonna say politics.
That's what I was like, what word was that?
Politics. I'm being Michael Eric Dyson, trying to say special 5-letter word, 5-syllable words, but I digress. So the big thing that we wanted to talk about, we want to tackle the big issues and let you know that if you are a believer, you have a solid ground to stand on to believe what you believe, and you should not be ashamed of it. And what we're talking about today is abortion.
Jump right into that.
Jump right on into it. The problem is that it is a very terrible thing that we have to deal with. That a lot of believers are afraid to talk about because they get shouted down so quickly. And I want you to know that you have all the truth and logic on your side. And, it's been a hot button issue lately because, the Supreme Court Justice is retiring, and they're wondering, the left is have their hair on fire, pulling their hair out and gnashing of teeth and ashes and sackcloth because Trump they were saying Trump was going to go pick a very conservative justice, and they're like, Roe versus Wade is going to be reversed,
and all that, right?
And I say more power to him. And then you have somebody on our side, some people on our side saying that it should not be reversed. Tomi Lahren, I'm sure you guys have heard of her. Vehemently disagree with her on this, but as conservatives, we can do that and not shoot each other in the face and not excommunicate each other like they do on the left for disagreeing.
How dare you think?
I think she's very, very wrong, and there's a lot of reasons why, and I'm going to lay them out here. But I just wanted to say that, if you're coming over to our team, if you're walking away from there, and you're coming over to our team, generally you have the freedom to disagree and have your own beliefs. Now, you also have to understand that you can be challenged on those beliefs, so you need to know what you're talking about.
Right.
But at the same time, you are able to have them without getting kicked out of the camp. So we got President Trump. He is picking his. He's told us who he's going to nominate, Brett Kavanaugh. And I'm going to give a little prediction real quick. In the next 2 weeks, how long do you think it's going to take for CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow?
Oh, they probably they'll have something up by this evening.
Rachel Maddow.
They're going to be some accusers that are going to pop up tonight. I say midnight.
You know for sure you got people at Salon.com doing this. Let's find out what did Brett Kavanaugh. He cheated on his second grade math test. They're going to do that. So I predict that. Just expect it. It's kind of comical. But talking about abortion, the reason why it's important because you're told that people will try to say and try to sound like they are compromising and accepting that it's about a woman's choice. It's even in how they word it, pro-choice, as opposed to
my body, my choice,
as opposed to what it's actually doing.
Except you're not hurting your body,
That's getting into it right there, That's the whole thing. So they say pro-choice because they want to say you can't take away my right to choose what I do with my body, right? And then they want to bring up other things, that peripheral stuff that doesn't get to the core of it. So let's tackle that. What should we think about that? So let's think this logically through. So biologically, Okay, not even not ideologically or spiritually,
Not from a spiritual
not
standpoint
standpoint,
at all.
biologically, the life begins. If you don't believe that life begins at the heartbeat, and you believe it begins at the brain scan, at the brain activity, either way, life begins biologically before most people detect that they are pregnant.
And I really believe that the Lord set it up that way, number one. And then the crazy part about it too is that even like typically by the time I'll say like maybe even like 5-6 weeks, when you're actually as a woman able to take a pregnancy test and determine that you're pregnant or whatever, you realize if they were to do blood work right then and there, the woman and the baby have two different sets of DNA already
right. So
at that time. So my thing is.
So you have two separate. This is why scientifically, you cannot justify abortion because, especially in the laws in the West. And I'm going to tie it in a second. We're going to try not to keep this video too long.
Right?
But if you have separate DNA, you have all the elements that you need to grow into a viable human being outside of the womb.
Right.
You have all the elements there. They just have to grow. You have separate arms, separate legs, separate heart, separate brain, separate lungs. You are a completely different entity. So when people say, when they say to you, "Oh, it's my choice, it's my body," you come back with, "No, it's not. It is not your body." Don't say it's not their choice. You say it's not your body. It is another body that you are killing.
And not only that, and then one of the other arguments that I hear quite a bit is the whole argument of how, well, baby needs my body to survive. Well, the truth of the matter is, we have a 18-month-old right here. He can't take care of himself right now either.
Nope.
So,
or elderly at a certain age.
Right.
Or they try to say that, and
he needs us to take care of.
People will call babies in the womb of what do they call them? Not viruses. What is it? When you are sucking off of something else, leech. When you're, you know what I'm talking about. When you are surviving off of something else, you're a parasite. Either a parasite or something like that.
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I can't.
They'll call babies that. So back on track here. So first of all, you tell them that no, you have to stick to this. No, it is not a second or your body that you're talking about. Right. You're talking about another body.
Right.
And then you'll have these people that will say, well, I am for a woman's ability to choose, but I'm not for abortion itself.
As an individual. I'm not for abortion.
That is a cop-out, and that is a coward move. And you need to call it out as such. The reason why it's a coward move is because, here, let me break this down. When they say that, you don't want to take away my right to choose. No, listen to me clearly.
That's impossible.
Your choice can never be taken away, no matter what anybody does.
Right.
You can always choose to do this or that because that is what God created you to do.
Free will.
The problem is, people don't want to deal with the consequences of their choices. So, if they want to kill their baby, if they want to kill their child, they can do that. People have been doing that, but they just don't want to deal with the consequences of what those choices would be. And they don't want the penalties. So my question would be, okay, so you want the choice. I have the choice to go murder somebody if I want to. I can go try to murder somebody. But then I want to turn around and say, no, that person was inconvenient to me, so I don't want to deal with the consequences of murdering that person. So we've established that the baby, a human being, is established at conception.
Right.
When a heartbeat and a brain waves are there, they just have to grow into its fullness. They're not a clump of cells. Biologically, they're not a clump of cells. And so we've established that they're a human being. So if they are a human being and our rights come from God, we believe that our rights come from God, then that baby, that human being with its DNA, has those rights that are unalienable. If you don't believe they come from God, if you believe that the government gives you your rights, then it's easy to say, well, if it's the government should tell me that it's, the person doesn't have real value,
right.
only value that the government gives it.
Right.
So if it's not of value to me, then I can get rid of it.
There are two things I want to add real quick. The first point that I do, we keep turning over here because our little one is like moving around.
We gotta talk lower.
But the one point that I do want to make is just, I worked in a doctor's office for years. I worked in a doctor's office, and I specifically remember a patient of ours, because I guess when you're on one of the birth control shots, I forget which one, you're supposed to have a bone density scan every 3 months. If you don't take that test, then you can't get that shot because they want to make sure it's not causing damage. And I remember the doctor I was working for at the time said, if you don't get the shot, we can't give you if you don't get the scan, we can't give you the shot. She's like, okay, that's cool. She's like, if I'm pregnant, I'll just go get an abortion. Like, just as a matter of fact, like, I'll just go get an abortion. Like, okay, that's good. If y'all don't want to do it, I'll just go. If I'm pregnant, I'll just get an abortion. Like, it was literally like, it was nothing. And I mean,
because we convince ourselves that this is not a life.
Right.
We convince ourselves that politics and choice is more important than the life.
But the second thing that I do want to touch on, because yes, this is as Christians, as believers, we do have this stance, but I don't want anybody to ever watch this video and if you are a person who obviously, and I mean, I just feel this is something that should already be known, but I just feel the need to say this, that if you are a person, if you are a Christian who may have had a past of already having
we're going to get to that, yeah.
You already know that that's covered by the blood.
And we're going to talk about that in depth
right.
in the last few minutes.
Right.
Here on the thing, because for sure, that's a good point to bring up,
right.
and we're going to deal with that, because we don't ever want you to think that becoming a believer, because that's a problem. The leftists and the liberals think that conservatives are heartless, but we're going to talk about that in a second. So, so we have the whole society trying to force abortion down our throats. It's nothing new.
Right.
Back in biblical days, they were killing babies as sacrifices to Moloch,
yep.
and all that. They were doing all that. And so, on top of that, you got, let's talk about black people here for just a quick second. Let's touch on this. Black people should be the most vehement opposers to an abortion law, because it was specifically meant to eradicate us. Margaret Sanger,
yep.
And I don't care how many times what is it, Wikipedia, when you go in there, they kind of water it down, right. What she said, or they try to tell you, read her
audio,
own quotes, listen to her audio.
In her own voice, in her own words.
The people that created Planned Parenthood.
And it had a different name at first. I forget what it is, but if you, maybe we'll add it in the comments.
Yeah. Just look up Margaret Sanger. She was with eugenics, and her whole point was to weed out people of color and people that are mentally challenged. To weed out that, and it's called eugenics, and that's what Hitler was doing, and a lot of other philosophers back in the day. And she laid out specific plans to get black people on board. And then you see nowadays we have more abortions than anybody. There's millions and millions of black babies that were murdered in the last 10 or 20 to 30 years. Who knows, one of those black kids could have been the person to find the cure to cancer. One of those black kids could have been, our next civil rights leader. One of those black kids could have been, anything. But we killed them off because of convenience. And let's not make any mistake. The very large amount of abortions happen for convenience.
Right.
And then the last thing I want to point out. So first of all, we disagree with Tomi Lahren. I think she needs to rethink, get some experience under her belt. Rethink that it doesn't matter. If we were to lose every election from here on out because we stood with the innocent, then we should stand with the innocent. Right. The elections, when it comes to that, it's we'll fight those battles later. But if we can win back the life of children, the most innocent among us, then it would be all worth it. And that's what being conservative is. It's about standing with your morals, standing with your stance. She's trying to make him go back to sleep there. So that, and you need to feel confident in being able to do that. So we disagree with Tomi Lahren a whole bunch on that. And then you had Michelle Wolf. I want you guys to go check it out if you want to throw up. Michelle Wolf, she talks like this, laughs at her own jokes. This vile, vulgar woman, making like this joke about abortion on her Netflix stinking show, where she does a salute to abortion, and at the end she says, "God bless abortion," and they do this crap just to try to piss us off.
Right, exactly.
They do that,
and honestly, I just feel. I'll be honest with you. I've gone to the point lately with when I see those kind of things, I feel sorry for them, because I'm just like, if you knew how you talk about how hateful everybody else is, if you knew how hateful and like I pray
it's just
for them
hateful and disgusting.
I feel sorry for them. You really just don't know.
You can search all through conservative media, and you will never find anything as vile or as disgusting or as like hateful as that. And they do it over and over and over and over again, and then wonder why people can't stand them, and then wonder why people are walking away. So we need to be able to stand with life and call it what it is. Abortion is murder.
Right.
I'm not even going to get into the connection between abortion and the vaccination industry. We're not going to get into that, but look it up. But biblically, the Bible does not support. The Bible, matter of fact, supports life. We're going to read maybe one or two scriptures, and as a Christian, obviously that's where you should stand, on the side of life.
The first verse that I want to read that really kind of just stands out is Jeremiah 1 verse 5. It says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." And the key part that just really stands out is, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born. Like,
how can you say you're a Christian and be for quote unquote pro-choice?
Right.
How? With those verses, with a verse like that, there's billions of others. There's the verses in Proverbs that talks about God hates shedding of innocent blood. How can you be a Christian and be for that, and say, well, I'm for something that allows for that? I'm against abortion, but I'm for the woman's choice. That's like an oxymoron.
Right.
You can't be for. That's like saying I'm against people getting murdered, but I'm for someone's choice to be able to murder somebody. That's exactly what it is. You're not. Nobody's against someone's choice. Everybody. You can't be against. You can choose to do whatever you want to do, but what are the consequences?
And that's a key thing. A lot of people are wanting in this day and age, and that is why you're seeing the downfall and the spiraling, because the truth of the matter is that there has to be a standard, and with standards come consequences, and we're living in a day and age where people don't want to deal with the consequences of things anymore.
The problem is we've gotten the wrong idea of what love is, because we think love is just
agreeing with everything and not everything
except for God's word. But but love actually is boundaries.
Right.
Because if my little 18-month-old, and 13-year-old, if I let them stick their tongue in the light socket because I don't want to be judgmental, but that's what they want to do, and they electrocute themselves. Is that love? That's not love. That's escaping my responsibilities. But we have to be able to set boundaries, and where are we at in a society where we can't even decide that killing an innocent child, which that is what it is biologically.
You know what though? I don't know if you touched on this, but the whole Roe versus Wade, the lady who started the whole Roe versus Wade, like, she's come out and said
she did. Yeah, she had come out and was said it was wrong, and,
right.
And I hope that it gets overturned. I do hope, because we're supposed to protect the innocent. And so the last thing we want to touch on is, for those of you who have actually had an abortion or had to come to that decision, I can't even imagine the pain and the issue, that you had to go through that came up, for you to actually do that. And we don't take that lightly and just say, well, you should have an abortion. I mean, at the end of the day, you shouldn't. But what we want you to know is that the Lord loves you. He understands what we go through. He cares for you. Nothing that you have done is beyond His
once
forgiveness.
You've repented, once you have repented, and you do not have to allow the devil to keep bashing you over the head, because truly it goes back to this whole thing of knowing that God will never ask us to do something that He hasn't already done. And so if He's telling us to forgive, you better believe that He is the best forgiver
and you need to forgive
in the
yourself.
world. Forgive
yourself.
Right?
You are welcomed in the family of God. Your child that was left here is in the presence of God and is not jealous of us here at all. But what I would say to you is cling to the truth.
Right.
Understand that you're not condemned by God.
Right.
So who are you to condemn yourself?
Right.
But understand that we make these decisions and make mistakes, but that we don't do them again, and we don't put ourselves in positions to have to make those decisions again. But understand that God is waiting with open arms for you if you've had to go through that, and if you've done that or whatever. There's nothing too great that He can't forgive you of. But you have to know that it is something that needs to be forgiven. We can't sit here and act like whatever we do is okay because it's what we wanted to do. The truth in love is that it is wrong and it was something wrong. But the love part is that there's nothing that you can do that can take you too far away from God's love. So let's stand on the side of truth. And hopefully we've given you some ammo because it's going to come up.
Right.
The abortion debate is going to come up. Understand, let the people know that when you're talking to them that, number one, it is biologically a human life.
Yes.
And number two, it's not about taking away someone's choice, because anybody can choose to do anything at any time. It's the consequences of the choice that they don't want to deal with. And we already have those consequences if we murder somebody who is a person. You were saying earlier that it's crazy that if someone gets a pregnant mom gets shot and killed, and the baby dies, then they get a double homicide.
Right, exactly.
If they're not alive, if Roe versus Wade is correct, then why that doesn't make sense.
And if there's no set standard that it is a life, then that means the person who killed someone who was pregnant is like, well, I don't believe that was a child, so no, I only killed one person. I didn't kill another human being.
And they would have to go there. Where's the line?
You have to have a standard. You
have to have a standard. So if you're a believer or conservative, you can't be on the side of pro-choice, and what it is actually is pro-murder, pro-death. And you have to stand on the side of pro-life. You have to. It's in the Bible. If you say you're a Christian or you say you're a conservative, don't even have to be a Christian, but if you're a conservative, you are for the essential thing that the Constitution allows for is that all our rights come from God and they're unalienable. And so if a baby goes under the standing of being a human being, then those rights extend to them as well. And it trumps anybody's need for convenience. And let's not even bring up rapes and all those things, because those are such a small amount in comparison to the large amount. I might be willing to give you some concessions on some of those things. We can discuss it, figure it out. The baby's life is still important. It's not the baby's fault. It wasn't the baby's fault
as well. Right.
It's terrible that happened to you, or that may have happened, but it's such a small amount that people, what they'll try to do is they'll try to take a small thing and make a small anomaly and make it the norm. But you have to steer them back to the right part and say, no. The majority of abortions happen for convenience, and in the black community, they happen on purpose. It was a plan. Go look it up. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a plan. You should hate, as a black person, you should hate Planned Parenthood, which is a leftist, liberal entity that gets millions of dollars from the government. So that's that. If you like what we're saying, I know it was kind of a long video. Go ahead and see. There goes our life. Telling us to shut up. So we're going to wrap this video up. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button so that you can be notified that we have other videos up. Make sure that you share on other platforms. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Our last videos have been going pretty good. We want to increase it. We got some materials coming out soon. So, remember, love God, hate sin, not left, not right, But up.